Hello and welcome to another episode of the Playground Podcast. I am Shamim Kesabawi and today's guest is basically the godmother of every child in Dubai, Principal Lisa.
Ta-da!
Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I've been trying to get you in for a while, haven't I?
Yeah, I know, but I'm dashing around town trying to get here, so I'm thrilled.
I want to talk about so much, but more than anything, have you guys noticed that Principal Lisa never talks about herself? We don't know her story. We don't know how you ended up here. I want to know everything. Let's start off with, how did you become Principal Lisa that everybody follows for tips and tricks and everything?
Do you know, people say, an overnight success, don't they? And they think, something happens really fast. I think things did happen for me fast, but I've been doing what I do now, which is fundamentally do everything I can to support the family unit. Since I can remember, there's never been a time when I've not been supporting families. So when I trained as a nanny, everybody got in my class went off and got like very kind of posh jobs, and it was very exciting. But I wanted to work in a needle exchange for drug and alcohol addiction centre, and I set up a creche there, and I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And all I had, it was an old fire station, and all I had was a room a quarter of their size. And as part of my first project was I would look after the children while the parents went to have, counselling. It was also a needle exchange, which was really like on the edge of what you should be doing as a brand new nanny. But I knew that I wanted to help families, and that's what I love to do.
So that basically was you knew that was your purpose from day one?
Yes, it's my calling. It's what excites me. It's what gets me up in the morning. Is helping a family.
Okay, so tell me, from there, I'm sure that was like insane to deal with these kids. How old were they?
So these are very, very young children, which I would say is my specialism, but I'll tell you a bit more about my work with older children. These were very young children, and these were children who were in what's called the toxic triangle home, in which you've either got some kind of drug addiction, you've got domestic violence, or you've got alcoholism. And so it's called a toxic triangle, that they would have been small children involved in those situations. And I just loved it.
Oh my God. Okay, so then how on earth did you end up in Dubai?
So from that, then I went on and I got pregnant. So I got pregnant with the first one, Ollie, who's 31.
Oh my God, you must have been so young.
Yeah, I was young, but I really wanted to be a mum. So, I was good with that. So then I just set up my own home nursery at home. So I did that for years. So I looked after all the neighbours' children and had a little nursery at home, had an assistant. And from there, that was great. And then my children went to school. And at this point, so I was a nanny. I was qualified as a nanny, but I didn't have a degree. But I was looking after children all day. That's what I did. Everybody knew that that's what I did. I ran community groups. I was at the church running mother and toddler groups. So I was always out in the community. And then one day, one of my children's teachers said to me, "Oh, can you help me out? We've got a lot of kids, not behaving. Can you help me out as an extra pair of hands in the classroom?" And the moment I stepped into that classroom, I was so excited, and I knew that I needed to become a teacher. And so I went back to university, which was really hard because I'm actually dyslexic, really significantly dyslexic. Anybody that works with me and knows me, that it's really hard. So I had to redo my maths, English, science, and my degree all at the same time, whilst working as a family officer, whilst having 3 children. It was hard work.
Wow.
And then so many exciting things to tell you. So then I'm a teacher, but I really want to specialise in children with additional needs. So I start working with the children that nobody wants. These are kids that everybody's excluding. So these are children that are right on the edge of society, and teachers like, "Can you take them? I can't deal with them." So I started working with these children. I worked in a special needs school. And then as my children grew up, I decided I wanted to work in secondary. So I did 7 years in a secondary school.
Wow, you've done it all.
Yeah, and I was head of pastoral care in a secondary school. And I really, really loved that work as well. I'd get to work every day, and there'd be a queue of children outside, coming to see Mrs. SB who hadn't had breakfast that day. and we're really struggling. And one of my biggest career achievements was setting up a community group for those people. So that's always been what I've done.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, you end up in Dubai?
Yeah, so there I am. So I'm doing all these, I love my work so much, but my husband is a poor, long-suffering teacher's husband. Okay, and what I mean by that is, if there's any teachers listening, you'll know, you take everything from your house, you put it in the school, and you live and breathe your school, So everything was about, I just lived and breathed the children, the school, everything.
Yeah.
And then my husband lost his job. And we were like, oh goodness, what will we do? And he was like, I really need things to be a bit more about me.
What year was this?
So this was 2015.
Okay.
Really need things to be a bit more about me. I was actually worn out at the time. I was kind of burnt out. I was a child and family officer across a federation of schools, and I was working in child protection, and it was really hard. And my job would be, my job was to try and get children who'd been excluded 18 times back into the classroom by working with the family in the school. And it was really frontline hard stuff, and I was worn out. If I'm honest with you, I was crying, I was tired, I was exhausted. My husband lost his job, and he got a phone call a week later, and somebody said, look, do you want a job in Dubai? Now, just give you one, so that's that. So he gets his call to go to Dubai. 2 years prior to that, we'd come on holiday to Dubai.
Yeah.
And I had started writing down in my journal, one day I want to live in Dubai. He said, that's impossible. I'll never get a job in Dubai. You're a teacher. We can't work in Dubai. Well, it'll never happen. And and I took a picture of us in front of the building that we ended up living in.
Power of attraction.
Yeah, but if I give you this story, so we were living in a house that was 300 years old, okay, with sheep outside. It was such a rural existence, and we said yes to life. All 3 kids had gone off to college and university. We packed the house up, we sold loads of stuff, and we moved to Dubai, and we lived on the 75th floor in Dubai Marina. We thought, this is it as a mum and dad. The kids have grown up. It's going to be about us now. Within 6 weeks, they'd all come. They followed us. And so, and that was it.
And that was it. So then you became a principal in Dubai?
Yeah. So I then started looking. My husband said, please, can we make this about me for a little bit? Please don't take over our life trying to rescue and save everybody.
Yeah.
So, just do nothing, just try, just take 6 months off, just try. I was at the beach and I just got so bored, so I set up this, it was back then in Meetup was the thing. So I set up this Dubai Ladies Club and started organising lunches and things like that. So I did that for, while I was, pretending to not do anything. And then I started interviewing for jobs. And the problem that I found, I was going for jobs and I just felt like I didn't fit in, because everything I'd ever done had been about families who were disadvantaged and impoverished, and now I was looking at working with a different type of family, and and so then I took on a principal's role in a nursery that had about 54 kids at the time, was running on the Indian curriculum, and I just loved the space and took over and completely changed it all, and so that. And then there's another whole story that comes after that.
That's crazy.
You're probably regretting that you asked me to tell your story.
No, I never got the chance to speak to you about, because you never speak about yourself, basically.
Well, because I feel like my job is to support and help people. That's what I do. So, yeah.
So I remember you telling me once, this is probably maybe the only time you spoke about yourself, what you used to do when you had 3 kids and things were crazy, just drive over to your mom's and drop them off. So going through all of this, you're a really young mom. How did you manage having 3 kids? What's the age difference between them?
So there was
3
tough? There was three under 4.
So did Principal Lisa also struggle like us?
Yeah, no, I did. I think, look, I had the benefit of, being a nanny. So that, that helps. I didn't need help with, sleep routines and things like that. I knew how that part worked. So that was okay for me. But I think what was really hard was literally physically being able to manage 3 children. Like, you know, like when one runs off, you can't be in a million different places. And I think probably the ultimate moment of low feelings in motherhood was I was so overwhelmed one day. I just put them in the garden, came in the house, locked the back door, which was like a glass patio door. So if you imagine, I can see these kids, but I've locked the back door, I put them in the garden. So that's it. I'm sitting here, I'm having a cup of tea. So I've locked my own kids out. So time out was, I was the one that was in, I just had nothing left to give. Do you know what I mean? And just put them in the garden. And our children didn't have a lot. You know, we weren't affluent. You know, they didn't have a lot. So, you know, the garden was, you know, almost like a big field. And my kids will tell you what their life was growing up was that, you know, they were running around the garden, hitting each other with spades and covered in mud. And I didn't have a TV. I didn't let the kids have TV. I don't think they had a TV till they were about 9. So, yeah, but so I think as a mother, there were times, or I'd ring my sister who didn't have kids at the time and say, you're going to have to take them. I can't, you know, I physically can't. So I know what it feels like. And I felt, yeah, just, you know, long days, no one to talk to, you know, you're just in the house. Those are hard days. But I tell you what, if I could go back in time, I'd give anything to go back and cuddle those children. You know, now they're all big and grown up.
Well, now you're going to be a grandma soon.
I know. I can't wait.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. Yeah. So my daughter, Autumn, as the time as we're recording this, is 20 weeks pregnant. But she's an early years teacher, so she's taught early years since she was 18, same as me. So she's got it. She doesn't need me.
She doesn't need you. I'm sure she'll need you. Trust me. I'm sure they're going to get dropped off at yours as well. I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you know, if I can be that for her, you know, I really will. You know, I'd love to be that kind of grandmother that, you know, that I can be there. And I just want to support them. I just want them to know that I'm there for them and to really hold that family unit. And I just think people underestimate how stressful it is for a family. It's so stressful. You step in that door, you never know what's going on in someone's family. And I think we have to hold families and really love them and support them because it's tough. They're raising little humans.
Yeah. I call them terrorists. They're little terrorists, but yeah, it's tough. So tell me now, what does your average day look like? You're doing a lot. What do you do with your clients?
Oh,
and what kind of nationalities? Like, because the whole of Dubai is working with you. So how does it work? How do you keep up?
So I've got an amazing assistant.
Okay.
So I have Megan that supports me, who's a midwife. So she's a nurse, so she can support me at the back end. So I've got that help. But my day starts, I usually get up about 4:30 or 5, and I have to empty my brain because I have so many ideas. All the time there's an idea popping up. I should talk about this, or that product would help that child, or we need to do this. So I empty my brain, and then I usually hit Instagram, start answering messages, start maybe creating content, putting things up on stories, answering emails, all of that. And I'm usually doing all of that whilst in pajamas. I aim to do some yoga. That's the goal. And then usually hit my desk at 9. I'll have brand meetings, school meetings, families, that kind of thing. And it's you know, it's families from all over the world. You know, family struggles are not cultural, you know.
Are they all the same?
They really are all the same. It really is about perspective. It's how they perceive their child's development. And sometimes families need help to move on. They're stuck in infanthood, yet the child is 3. Yeah. So my job is actually to help them lead that child on. And I love to see them go on, and they've left all the baby bottles behind, and, you know, they're out of diapers, they're sleeping through the night, you know, they're following instructions, and the family can move on. But yeah, it's quite important work, really.
What is the most common challenge or problem that families come to you with?
Well, it's, you know, my biggest specialism is potty training. So I spend an awful lot of time tackling poop withholding. So these are children who will only do a poo if they're wearing a diaper or a pant. Yeah. And this is usually typically a child that's maybe 3 to 4, and this has gone on for a long time, although I can work with children right up to the age of 10 who are still only pooping in a diaper. It's a really significant problem. Or failed toileting. So a family comes, potty training's it's out of control. People don't ring me until they're desperate.
Yeah.
And that's the bit I wish I could change.
So it's always SOS. So when do you recommend people to contact you?
Oh my goodness. I would so love to be able to reach a family 18 months, spend a few months with them preparing for potty training, and potty train at 2. It's so much easier at 2. I get so many phone calls from families who are desperate, who are trying to potty train at 3. But actually, it's not really about the potty training at 3. It's about the parenting skills that maybe need some tweaking. And also it's about diet, it's about sleep. They're trying to potty train a child who isn't sleeping, who really hasn't even moved on to solid foods even. You know, they really are in a muddle.
But do you think our generation is different to yours? Do you feel that we are all over the place? It's, you know, social media, we've got our phones in our hands. Do you think that's got something to do with it?
Yeah, I do actually. I think that people are keeping their children in diapers for longer because they cannot face having to potty train, because they would have to stop their life for maybe 3 to 5, 7 days, whatever, and you know, and really focus in on that child to get them over this development stage. That's really difficult if you're working, right? So that's number one. You know, there's a lot of juggling, a lot of struggling, and also, for example, diapers are. I work with this company called Kokoshi now, and their diaper now is so incredible that you won't even sweat in it. It's anti-sweat diaper right now. This stuff is amazing. So why are you going to drop that? Because that makes your life easier. You don't have to think about pee and poo because your child is doing it in their diaper and it's no big deal. They change it and that's the end of the world. So we are potty training later. And I think that's having a knock-on effect. I think we're not getting children ready for school. I've just been working with Clarion Nursery and talking about how to get children ready for school, you know, how to get them so that they can cope in the classroom. So I feel like it's hard for you. I never had a phone. I didn't even have a TV.
See, they say that it's easy parenting to put your kids in front of the TV. I'm not going to lie, I do it all the time. But it's like, for me, my kids have picked up so much, you know, from, what's her name? Miss Rachel.
She's wonderful. Now look, right, in COVID, I talked about this a lot in COVID, right, is that we've got this anti-TV thing. Now, it's very interesting, is that the American Association of Pediatrics say that children under the age of 2 shouldn't have TV at all. 0 to 2, no TV, okay? But that 2 to 5, 1 hour of quality TV a day can be beneficial if the adult is sat alongside the child. That's what the American Association of Pediatrics say. Now, back in the UK, the governing body of pediatrics say it's total rubbish and that there isn't enough information to back up that ruling. Introducing baby Einstein and all the research that was done about putting babies in front of TV. That one of the risks that you have of giving your child too much screen time is that they're not having verbal contact. Children learn to speak by reading our faces, by human interaction.
Right.
So screen time can reduce a child's capacity to pick up language. That then means that they're later to speak, their social skills are impacted, and the thing goes on. But in COVID, TV kept us all going.
Yeah.
TV was a child's best friend. They have a relationship with Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel's their friend. You know, Peppa Pig is their friend. So these are important too. So I think, and also if it gives mum respite, then that's not a bad thing either. I think there's a balance to be struck.
I want to tell you something weird. My child doesn't like her iPad. She won't sit on it for too long. She doesn't like it. She doesn't want the phone. Is that normal? Because
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, okay.
So there's probably a reason in her learning style for that.
Okay.
She may be someone in her learning style that likes facts and structure, and what you're showing her is playful, creative, sing-songy. So she doesn't like to receive her information in that way. So her learning style may be kinesthetic. So she likes to learn by doing, which is why she doesn't want the iPad, because she wants to be moving, touching, feeling, which is kinesthetic learning.
Okay, that's so interesting because she does like to. I mean, she asked me the other day, why do we have belly buttons?
Oh, I love that.
Why do we have a back? Why do we have a neck, mommy? She's 4. Is that normal?
It's brilliant. Can you get her the book? It's called See Inside Your Body, and it's 25 dirhams on Amazon, 5-star.
Okay.
And it's this lift the flap book that takes them all through the human body. Every child should have that book.
Okay, wow. Parents or mother? Because I got beef with my husband all the time, but I liked him to be included in the whole,
So my brand is Happy Families because of that reason.
Families. Then
Because obviously, as Miss Rachel rightly says, families are made up all over the world of all sorts of different, varieties.
That's so funny because I've never heard her say that. But on my app, I get, because I can see the families being downloaded, and there's all sorts of new structures of families coming through from Germany.
Yeah, and
America.
Families that we haven't even considered.
Yeah.
Do you know, I was working online on Zoom with a family in Amsterdam. Okay, so I work with families all over the world.
Yeah.
Right, as well.
Okay, that's good to know, guys. Principal Lisa works with families all over the world. Okay, so tell me the family in Amsterdam.
So the family in Amsterdam, we had a 3-parent family.
Oh wow!
2 dads and a mum. Okay, so this was a new one for me. So families are changing. Families are changing, and so you're right. We need to direct our 2 families. Families are made up of all sorts of different
structures and
different structures
and cultures, and I feel like culture plays a huge part. How do you actually, before we go into your tips, how do you manage cultures?
Yeah, I think, and I try to be really respectful, obviously, of cultures.
Like late nights. The other day I was at the mall and all these kids were out and I was judging. Then like a week later, my kid is with me because I didn't have support.
Yeah, look, I can only be who I am. And I am based on my training too.
Right.
But I do like to see children in a structure. I believe obviously in child development, and what we know through science is that children, let's say a child of 2.5 needs about 14 hours of sleep a day. If we do not give that to that child, we are actually putting them at a strong disadvantage. Now, as a teacher, I would have, 30 children in front of me, and I'm there and I've got my circle time. The children who'd had a good sleep, who'd had a good breakfast and were in a routine, those children were streets ahead on advantage than those other children. Those other children are disadvantaged because they don't have enough sleep, they don't have enough parental contact, they're not having a healthy diet. Unfortunately, they are at a disadvantage from a learning perspective. And those children who are in that they've had all their physical needs met, are at an advantage educationally. It's just a fact.
I want to ask you a question. As a teacher, do you address that with the parents immediately?
Well, I do, because I'm quite bossy.
Yeah.
So, I'm very straight.
Yeah.
So I would say, look, Mummy, I'm a bit concerned about Sam. Sam keeps falling asleep at 10 o'clock, and Sam's coming to school without his breakfast. And I'm noticing this and this, that really needs to change. And, and I'm really direct with the families that I work with as well. I literally will say to them, that's got to stop. Oh, no, we're not having that. Right, back to bed, please. So I went round to a family, let's say last year. Okay.
Okay.
So I went around to family last year, and, we had a child that was going to bed at midnight.
What?
Midnight.
So how does the mommy getting a break? Mommy and daddy, how are they having a break?
All right. So the backstory of this is that every single family is doing the best that they can at that time with the skills that they have. So this family were an incredible mum and dad who both worked. They don't see the 3-year-old during the day. So they think that they're doing the most loving, caring, kind thing, which is when they get home from work at 7 o'clock, they're spending all that time with their child. putting him to bed at midnight, okay, and he's, before he has to go to nursery, he's sleeping through till 8, 9, but he's actually only getting about 9 hours of sleep. He's missing all that quality sleep before midnight, and it's chaos. And they can't, because of that child being out of circadian rhythm, he can't potty train.
That's so interesting. So it affects everything.
Yeah. So, and I tell them very straight, I would say to them, this has got to stop. Nanny, you need to stop doing that. Enough of that. Do this, please. I want you to follow my routine. I want you to stick to it. And they get the results. Their families are changed. I know what families need. And so I don't see it as culture. I actually don't see anything other than, what do I need to do to get this child to where he needs to go, which is eating and chewing, not on baby's bottles, speaking, interacting, playing, socializing, learning, sleeping, independent. That's what I've got to do so that they can go to school and go on and live the rest of their life. But I meet families that are stuck. They can't get there. So I have to go in and fix it.
Wow.
And I love it.
And you make it sound so easy. Like now I'm looking back and I do recall my 4-year-old, until she was about 2, she wouldn't want to chew. But I didn't realize that was a thing. Now she's chewing. She's fine. We're eating and everything is fine. But then is it the kids that are choosing not to chew, or what? Like, she just swallow her food.
Yeah. All right. Look, this is a complex topic, chewing, oral feeding. And obviously there are some children that need to go to see, a speech therapist to check on their feeding, right? So that's the side. I'm not discounting that. But one of the big problems that we've got is that often children are being bottle fed or breastfed way beyond 1 year. Now, breastfeed for as long as you want to, as long as your child is also taking on board food and chewing, because your jaw is meant to chew, which leads to oral development, which leads to language, which leads to social skills. And so before we start taking children off for assessments and those things, we need to get some of the basics right. And if we're filling up, babies love milk, toddlers love milk. You get cozy, you've got a hot bottle of milk, or you cozy up with mummy for a feed. Those are lovely things. So they don't really then they're so full, they don't really want to sit at the table and try and eat their dinner because they're so full of milk. So, we have to, milk is a problem. That belongs, in those early 0 to 1.
This is so interesting. I can talk about this forever, but before we wrap up, I want you to give us some Principal Lisa wisdom. It can be about anything. What would you like to leave families with?
Okay, so my grandmother, she had 5 girls during the war, literally back to back, 1 year after the other through the Second World War.
How many nannies did she have?
She didn't have a single nanny.
Okay.
And I asked her, how did you cope? How did you cope? What did you do? She shrugged her shoulders like that, and she just said, well, I just took each day as it came, day at a time. She didn't try to fix everything. She didn't try and solve the world. And she just took each day as it comes. And what I do think is that we all get very, very overwhelmed in planning, thinking about how we want everything to look and be, and we lose that just being in the day. So I think if you are a parent and you're in the midst of it when it's really, really tough, one of the very first things to do is to just take that day and remind yourself it's not forever, it's not a crisis, it's not an emergency, it's just a little person underdeveloped with big feelings who's struggling. It's child development a lot of the time. It's not necessarily bad behavior, it's usually child development that they're struggling with things, and you will get to the other side.
We will get to the other side.
You will get to the other side.
We will get to the other side.
And all my children all survived, all grown up, all went to university. And, I'm not saying I was a perfect mother. I think some people might have found my mothering, very different to how we mother, here. I was there's a field,
Release, go out there.
Yeah, and I used to say, look, children are like dogs. You've got to walk them. You've got to put them outside. You know, you've got to give them space to move. That's the other thing is it's hard. You know, in COVID, how tough was it in COVID being stuck inside?
I was still pregnant, thankfully. I was pregnant during COVID. She was even worse. But okay, there's one more topic that I want to get your advice on because I know that we are, you know, a lot of families are choosing schools and nurseries as we speak. What would be the top tip for you, for these kids, for these parents to pick a nursery for their kids?
Thank you so much for asking this question. I'm so passionate about getting children into education at the age of 2.
2.
Okay. I like to see children from the age of 2 in group learning, community learning. Okay. Whether that's alongside their parents or on their own and in their own autonomous learning space. But I feel that a lot of children here are disadvantaged because they're not accessing school and nursery. They're going straight into school and they're skipping that very precious early learning stage. So how to choose? Well, I mean, they can contact me and I'll send you a list of questions to hit your principal, you know, with, but dig deep. You know, ask questions. Are they willing to listen to you? Will they spend time with you? Can you go back for a second or a third or a fourth tour? You know, look for policies. Pick the best nursery that you can afford. And, you know, ask all the questions, find out, because when they're very young, you need to know what is your changing policy? How do you change their nappies? What happens at meal times? You know, what happens if my child bites another child? You know, what are they going to do? Are you going to communicate that with me? Are we going to work in partnership? But go for it. Get your children in school. I'm just launching a new project, which has been my dream to get going, and I finally made it. I am creating a parent and child nursery experience at Clarion. And the idea of this is that it's a nursery class. We've got our learning objectives, but that you come with your child and you learn with them in a group of other 15 children, and you help your child learn to separate from you, to share, to listen, to respect others, to understand others. But it's in an environment in which your child can learn alongside you, because children love to be near mummy and daddy when they're very small. And then from there, we've got them through the door of a school, and then we feed them into the rest of their education. Education is the best gift that you can give your child.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Principal Lisa.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Principal Lisa, for joining us today. Please like, subscribe, and share. Honestly, you might be helping at least one family with this. Principal Lisa, you're available on all social media platforms as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? You can just book a one-to-one with me fast in my diary. If you're a family who's not coping, literally, it's not a lot of money. Just book in and get a little bit of time with me, because sometimes I can help fix a family in 30 minutes. I just need to change their perspective. I'd love to help.
Get help. It will change your life. Trust me. Thanks, guys.
Ta-da!